Welcome everyone. I am Maureen Sanders, Senior Regional Resource Director. Thank you for joining us today for our Caron, Florida Clinical Roundtable. We will be conducting this session in webinar format, so all participants' microphones will be muted and video will be turned off. We want this session to be interactive, so we encourage you to use the Q&A and chat features for any questions. We may answer questions as they come in, and we may also allot time after to answer any of your questions. Today, we welcome 3 of our clinical leaders at Caron, Florida campuses. Dr. Phoenix Adams is Vice President of the Florida Continuum and Executive Director of Ocean Drive. Dr. Adams provides administrative and clinical oversight for Caron's Ocean Drive Treatment Center and the executive programs at Caron, Pennsylvania campus. Ryan Hansen is the Executive and Clinical Director of Caron Renaissance. Ryan's role is to supervise leadership, oversee daily operations, provide clinical oversight, and work with patients, families, and referrents to strengthen collaborative relationships. Jonathan Salzberg is the Executive Director of Career Services. He manages several innovative programs at Caron to help individuals examine their success in recovery, and he also strategically realigns their career and recovery goals to achieve it, and ultimately enhance their quality of life. Dr. Adams, Brian, and Jonathan will be providing information on the respective programs that they all oversee. We will pause between each topic to answer any questions that may come in. We'll begin with Ryan Hansen, who will give us a brief oversight of Caron, Florida.
We're glad to have you with us today, and always exciting to talk about some of the innovative services that we offer here in the Florida Continuum and under the Caron umbrella. I want to talk just briefly about and introduce some of the history and the background of Caron Renaissance and Caron Ocean Drive and our Florida clinical philosophy. Now, when Caron Renaissance was founded a little over 30 years ago with the realization that men and women seeking care for both mental health and compulsive disorders, including substance use, were headed into acute settings, crisis stabilizations, short-term treatment programs, and were headed out of those levels of care without all of the necessary tools in order to be successful. So there are some very practical pieces that were missing, that Caron Renaissance was designed, our clinical philosophy was designed to help somebody be able to develop a sense of competence in a variety of life areas before they left treatment. So they have been able to practice it, so their families had been able to practice it. Now, and we found out that the emotional, psychological, familial, and relapse prevention skills that they needed to be successful really needed to be demonstrated both for themselves, for their clinical team, and for their families in order for them to really achieve our goal of lifelong recovery. We found out that over a long period of time in Caron of Florida and Caron Renaissance have always been committed to family systems treatment, not just family involvement, but genuine family treatment, where we're involving all members of the family. We created our residential family programming, or formerly residential family restructuring, in order to help bring families into the treatment setting and participate in the development and implementation of those skills. So again, the family members had an opportunity to address their own unique clinical issues and clinical needs. They're assigned their own family therapists throughout the courses of treatment at both Caron Renaissance and Caron Ocean Drive. And it gave them the opportunity to interact with their loved one during the course of treatment in a very genuine way, in a very organic way, but also in a meaningful way to help identify what skills each, the patient and the client, had created and developed, and what skills still needed to be strengthened before they left the treatment setting. So gaps could be identified. And again, the result has been an increase in efficacy, an increase in recovery rates. I mentioned Caron Ocean Drive, and I'll allow Dr. Adams to speak about this a little bit further, but Caron Ocean Drive is our bespoke executive program, and it was created with the exact same underlying clinical philosophy and attention to individualized care and tailored to a very specific treatment community. I think something worth noting is that the great majority of the staff that work at Ocean Drive have also worked at Caron Renaissance. So it helps to identify the consistency between the two programs, the consistency in the clinical philosophy, and really the synergy in all of the Florida programming. We really make sure that we adhere to the same underlying clinical philosophy because we know how effective it really is. We're really trying to help each individual in tailoring a treatment plan that is specific to their needs, tailoring a treatment plan that is specific to their family system's needs, and identifying the underlying factors that need to be addressed in order for them to again, get to our goal of lifelong recovery. So at Caron Renaissance, we treat adults, men and women in a co-ed setting, and we're looking at 4 key diagnostic lenses and treatment areas in order for us to really help that individual and that family system address what's specific to them. And those 4 issues are compulsive disorders, including substance use, potentially process-driven disorders such as gambling or gaming, eating disorders, sexual compulsivity, etc. Family and relationship issues. I mean, relationships are the foundation of what all of us, generally speaking, are looking for, having healthy relationships and really identifying what the barriers to those quality and meaningful relationships in our lives are. Identifying personality and emotional development issues, whether those are characterological or simply emotional in nature. And identifying mental health needs, some of which may be undiagnosed or underdiagnosed. And as we look at those 4 areas, identifying where the synergy and the interactive components of those are. And that's a little bit different for every individual. So it really speaks to the ability of all of our Florida programming to do thorough, skillful, and ongoing assessment throughout the treatment process. People come to us at Florida Renaissance generally in one of 2 treatment groups. Young adults who are struggling for a variety of reasons to emerge into a truly successful adulthood. Now, and this can be due to those things that we already mentioned: substance use, process-driven disorders, such as internet or video gaming, gambling, sexual concerns, emerging or already identified mental health issues that need concurrent treatment, stunted emotional development, or family issues. And they come to us because they're struggling in a variety of life areas, whether it's being successful at college, whether it's being successful in making the transition from young adulthood into a more meaningful adulthood, whether it's struggling with relationship issues and finding successful relationships that are meaningful and sustaining for them, or they've started to have some of the additional barriers: financial issues, legal issues, things that are connected to the behaviors that are happening, but also are becoming barriers to somebody being able to be fully successful. The other group that we work with at Caron Renaissance are professionals, folks that have effectively launched. They've gone from young adulthood into adulthood. They've been able to develop careers. They have started families. They've had some measure of identifiable success. And now, either due to their chemical use or process-driven disorders or undiagnosed or undertreated mental health concerns or unresolved trauma or emotional issues from their young adulthood or childhood, that those things have now caught up to them and they're starting to regress in their life. They're starting to have challenges at work. They're starting to have challenges in the family systems that they have created. They're starting to have struggles with finances. And so their ability to put those things together are now starting to backslide. And so we see that those folks need some additional professional support as well as some additional emotional support. And Jonathan will speak to how we treat some of those individuals as we go through this process. So I'm just going to identify kind of the umbrella of services here in Caron of Florida, and specifically at Caron Renaissance. And then Dr. Adams, Jonathan, and myself will take turns identifying some of the specifics of those programs. And so when we think about Caron Renaissance, we think about a variety of services really that we can individualize and tailor to meet of clients' needs. And those services here are the professionals track services, the lawyers track, our career services, college services, sober dorms, and semester of success programming, our digital treatment track, residential family programming, the Caron Ocean Drive array of services, our signature and core services at Caron Renaissance, and our diagnostic assessment program. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Maureen as we keep going this morning.
Thank you, Ryan. And we actually have a question that did come in. And the question is, do families that do not come to Caron, are they allowed to participate in the family program?
Yes, our residential family program is not limited to someone who has an identified patient or an identified client at Caron. So we work with family systems that have a loved one at another clinical treatment program, or that have just identified for themselves that they need to do some additional work and need some additional support to look at some of their own issues that are getting in the way of them having some healthy and meaningful relationships. So that's a great question, Maureen. Yeah, our admissions staff is really skillful at helping families identify, or a family member identify, how might this be meaningful for me? So the short answer to that question, which I've somehow managed to make very long, is no, you don't have to have an identified loved one here.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, well, let's now welcome Jonathan, who will be telling us more about the college success and semester of support programs.
Thank you so much, Maureen, and thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you everyone for joining. My name is Jonathan Salzberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Academic Success Program at Caron, as well as Career Services. And I'm just very grateful to be here. It's hard to believe, 10 years ago, in 2010, we launched the College Success Program at Caron Treatment Centers, and Caron Renaissance particularly, where it first started. A little bit about me and my background is I worked at Florida Atlantic University in the Office of Admissions. Florida Atlantic University is one of the state universities, is part of the state university system in Florida. I also worked in admissions at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania as a graduate assistant. So I come from a lens of, first came from a lens of really looking at, from a college admission standpoint, how recovery could really play a role into differentiating an individual and their narrative about why are they a good fit for this university, how they can contribute to the university. Well, one of the concepts that kind of we conceptualized back in 2010 or 2011 was the idea of, if you think about it, college counselors at a high school help individuals and students look at what's a best fit college. So you work with a college counselor at, a local high school. Their job is to really help the student look at whether they're going to do better at a small school, bigger school, a university that offers this major or that major, or really looking at if there's learning issues or learning difficulties, what universities offer more support. But really the idea, working within a high school framework to support the student. In addition, while working at Florida Atlantic University and at University of Pennsylvania, you noticed how letters of recommendations from high school guidance counselors, as well as from other individuals, play such a key role in the admissions process and provide such a holistic perspective. So if you think about this high school guidance counselor, college counselor perspective, it's a really, really important piece, right? So my question that I posed years ago was, why shouldn't treatment centers have a college counselor within a treatment framework? A recovery-informed college counselor that works with the patient while they're in treatment, while they're in a continuum of care, and really helps them threefold. One is identify an educational plan, whether that includes going back to school, what that, or identify best fit colleges, et cetera. Second thing is looking at if there is a wreckage of their academic past, how do we help them clean it up if clinically appropriate? And the third piece is really looking at the individuation part, is really looking at, whether or not what they're trying to study is really consistent with what they want to do, or perhaps some family of origin issues or family of origin concerns that maybe they're going to school for someone else, not for themselves. So is this really the right major? And what an incredible opportunity to address these existential issues while in a treatment framework. So a little bit about college success. So we launched it in 2010. So I was the college counselor within the treatment framework. And really we had it to be a clinically driven program where patients would come through the continuum of care at Caron of Florida, Caron Renaissance, and I would have an opportunity to meet with a patient when deemed clinically appropriate by the clinical team. The key piece there was really looking at the fact that I didn't want to rush school or rush college when it's not clinically appropriate, or rush technical school. Really focusing on a clinically driven program where I'm working in collaboration with the clinical team to help develop an educational plan that hope, in the end of the day, what it comes down to is hope, to provide hope and for them to see, for the individual student in recovery to see that there is that opportunity that we're trying to lead them to. And sometimes when you're in treatment, it's kind of hard to see that. So, you're doing all of that hard clinical work on yourself. So how can we get them excited about their future? Because there is so much excitement, and that they're going to realize their potential. So what I want you to take away is a clinically driven program. From there, we developed something. We had patients that just wanted to actually stay on property while they went into school. So patients got into these colleges and universities and were able to start fresh, or in some cases, build up their GPA so they could go somewhere else. Or in some cases, they found their destination university down here at Florida Atlantic University or Lynn University. So we had patients that really wanted to stay on our campus, stay on our Caron Renaissance campus, and work within some sort of clinical care. So we developed something called the Sober Dorm program at Caron Renaissance. And the idea behind that was give patients the opportunity and families the opportunity to have access to care while they're going through, attending their education. So someone could be attending at Florida Atlantic University, someone could be attending Lynn University, some could be attending their original college remotely. At the time, they could have been attending remotely, or they could be attending attending at FAU or Lynn and transferring back to the original college, and have them the opportunity to do school, address all the triggers and issues that come up while in a clinical environment, both for the family and the patient. Thus, we created the Sober Dorm, which was a cohort model, not to compete with collegiate recovery programs, which I'll talk to you about in a second, but to offer an opportunity for that first semester back. Some patients wanted the opportunity to continue the intense clinical work they were doing. So I'm happy to report that program still is in existence, and 10 years later, we've served over 200 students and really continue to serve and support students in recovery and really create an opportunity for our patients to build that sober reference point and hopefully attend a best fit collegiate recovery program. And I'm happy to share that we've had patients go to Rutgers University, a variety of different universities, Florida Atlantic University, just a ton of different universities, and patients graduate from the original college they were at, which is even as exciting. So anyway, that was one thing I wanted to share, which brings us up to the point of, now this is one of the most difficult times in this country's history, in my past 10 to 11 years working in this field. And we're in a mental health crisis. And I share that because we're all in this together. And in the March of 2020, we saw a huge displacement of college students, Universities were closing their doors. College students had to go home to their parents' house, or or in some cases to leave the country, other different things. I mean, it was just a tremendous number of students that were displaced. And what do? And what we heard was a few keywords: was anxiety, depression, isolation, all these things that were coming up for even students that never experienced this kind of loss before. And really, we met as a team and really thought about how can we support and help even more college students. I know the Sober Dorm kind of puts a pigeonhole on it. It's really based on abstinence, based on the clinical Renaissance clinical philosophy, based on a primary diagnosis of substance use disorder. But how can we even help more people? So what we looked at was recently we got the ACA license, which allows us to treat those individuals without a primary substance use disorder, those who are suffering, experiencing mental health issues, which Dr. Adams and Ryan Hansel will be speaking to. But on that kind of piggybacking on that, we really looked at, why don't we open up our Sober Dorm program? Why don't we really remodel, repackage it, and look at how we can help the traditional college student or whomever that needs to, get off the college campus, that needs the support to address those four lenses that Ryan spoke to. And why not offer it as an opportunity for a semester of support where someone doesn't have to be on a college campus, where someone can now be on another campus in our own college bubble at Caron Renaissance, where they're able to address their clinical issues, whether they address their emotional growth, and be able to have structure and support. So we launched the Caron Semester of Support program this past summer, which is open to any individual that is looking to pursue college classes while receiving some clinical support. So I'm looking forward to speaking more about that. But some of the core tenets of that program is really looking at, doing a thorough assessment to see whether or not there are some mental health issues that we need to address, and really helping them connect with the social community here at Caron Renaissance. So I'm really excited to announce that and really look at how we can support more college students. So thank you, and looking forward to speaking further later in this meeting.
Thank you, Jonathan. And actually, you have quite a few questions that came in. So,
oh, wow.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay. All right.
All right. I'm going to read them off to you. Number one is, do you approach your academic success programs and career counseling programs from a vocational rehabilitation position, accessing what supports they will need for success in the schools or career environment that addresses relapse prevention? That's a long question.
Great question. Long question. Great question. Okay, so let's break it down. First is we have a career services, a vocational program here at Caron Renaissance. It's ran by Vicki Stanbury is one of the individuals. She's a master's in education. She's phenomenal. She has worked in this field for 20 plus years and really specializes in working with individuals that are going through this experience and helping them really identify career routes to address the questions that are, the tough questions, gaps in your resume. Why are you down in Florida? Why have you moved so many different times? So really addressing those kind of questions of interview skills. And really now we've launched career assessments, which allows us to really get through Dr. Alexakis, I know I'm speaking fast, but under our Director of Psychological Services, we saw that there was a need to really get down to what someone's working values are, what someone's working styles are, and some other characteristics. So we launched a career assessment using PAR assessments, where we do working values assessments, working styles assessments, and self-directed search. So we do have a very assessment-based program now more than ever under Dr. Alexakis and Vicki Stanbury's leadership. Connecting them and doing vocational rehab and looking at what our local community resources are and advocating for our students, advocating for our patients, absolutely. We've had patients that return back to work and also are looking for new jobs where we've written letters for accommodations so that the employer can provide accommodations to support a healthier and optimize their work experience. But again, we do have every day we have a process group around job search, around interview skills, and around what resume development. So I think we cover a lot of different things, but the key piece is yes, we do offer that, and yes, we do connect with the community resources as well.
Thank you. And I promised Dr. Adams we're almost with you, so hang in there. Jonathan, we do have another question. How do clinicians address cultural humility and cultural competency in working with students and some of the barriers that are inherited in institutionalization?
Great question. Could you repeat it one more time, though?
Sure. How do your clinicians address cultural humility and cultural competency in working with students and some of the barriers that are inherited in institutionalizations?
Yes. So This is a really, really important question. So how are we working in a culturally competent mindset? And also, how are we looking at how institutions function historically and how are they functioning now and helping our individuals navigate this very, very difficult system? My answer to the question is another kind of thought, which is navigating a college environment is extremely difficult for a student that's returning to college after experiencing a level of care, after now being a student in recovery, looking at whether or not, who to contact the dean of students, who to contact to get the support services on campus, who to contact to get into the right and connected groups on campus that are the best fit. So navigating a college campus at its own kind of fundamentals is difficult. And then throwing in all these other difficult, challenging dynamics of working with individuals at a college or an institution that may not be recovery informed, that may not know exactly the individual they're working with or the background they're coming from. And I think that part of the clinician and part of our role is to identify champions at a university, identify individuals at a university that are going above and beyond to work with their students. Now, all university professionals, you would think, do that, but who are familiar with this subject area expertise? And how can we really advocate and be an advocate for our student? So that's part of our clinicians, and our role is helping identify the best fit contacts at the university to help navigate that transition. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Now to Dr. Phoenix Adams, who will tell us more about core and legacy programming. Dr. Adams?
Yes, thank you, Maureen, and good morning, everybody. Hard acts to follow. So just want to give some recognition to Ryan and to Jonathan. I stepped into this role after 6.5 years of being executive director at Ocean Drive and a few years in admissions, composing my whole 9-year tenure here, at Ocean Drive. But I stepped into this role of vice president of the Florida Continuum just a few months ago. And it's people like Jonathan and Ryan who, obviously, as you can see from their contributions to this webinar, that they are just truly passionate and committed individuals, and they make my job easier every single day. They actually went above and beyond and made my job so easy on this webinar because they covered most of the information that I wanted to speak about. But having said that, there is some additional information I would like to cover. Ryan did a great job of describing our Renaissance programming and some of our Ocean Drive programming as well, which we consider to be our signature programs. So for those of you that are participating right now, you're probably familiar not only with the way that Ryan described it, but historically what our approach has been to treatment at both Renaissance and Ocean Drive. And Ryan mentioned some of our signature aspects of Renaissance, which involves the legal program for attorneys, the professionals program, our legacy Renaissance program, as everybody knows it. Those things remain unchanged. Ocean Drive as a signature program remains unchanged. But one of the things that Ryan mentioned and also that Jonathan mentioned is that with the climate right now, this COVID environment, everything that's happening in our country, both health-wise and economically, we're seeing more and more barriers that are preventing individuals from getting access to the care that they need. So one of the things that we've been looking at as a team is how do we continue to reduce and eliminate these barriers so that people can get the care that they need? One area where we had some real success in Caron in Pennsylvania was being able to divide our programming into core programming and signature programming, which is a model that we've now adopted in Florida as well. So again, I mentioned the signature aspects of our programming in Florida have not changed. But one of the things that we noticed is, and in particularly even within our own continuum, for patients that were getting care for maybe a 30-day length of stay at our Caron, Pennsylvania programs, but we knew could identify from an extended care model of treatment like we offer in Florida, there were maybe different presentations, maybe some that had less complicated presentations, that maybe it was straight substance use disorder and it didn't involve severe personality disorder, other acute psychiatric disorders. Others that maybe could benefit from extended care, but didn't necessarily need the intense level of family work and family services that we provide, but still needed some aspects of our programming. The other piece is we identified that, again, there were financial barriers. So not only did some not need all aspects of our programming, but some couldn't afford to come to Florida to get the care that they needed. So again, we adopted this, this core model approach, which really involves scaling down some of the aspects of our signature program so that we can make the program more affordable and also eliminate some of the parts of treatment that are rolled into our signature programs that somebody doesn't need and wouldn't necessarily have to pay for. So effectively, where our core programming includes psychiatric evaluation, medication management, nursing services, neurofeedback, college success, academic counseling that Jonathan described, the residential family programming, some specialty areas, so for people with severe trauma, EMDR, DBT, sober dorms. So these things are part of our traditional signature programming are actually not included in core programming. So for core programming, what it means is patients will still come into our clinical milieu in Florida. They will still get a family therapist and a primary therapist, still have that intense level of group and individual therapy and family therapy, but the residential family restructuring piece is not included. However, family members can still come and participate in the workshop, which family members benefit from a lot. Our core programming clients will still get to participate in specialty groups such as eating disorder, body image, adoption groups, anger resolution, parenting, sexual concerns, and trauma. But for those with the severe trauma that need other modalities beyond our group modality of treatment for trauma, then we would put them in that category of where they would need the signature programming to have a more intense level of services around trauma. So somebody that would be appropriate for core versus signature would be somebody that has a primary diagnosis of substance use disorder, but not on medication management, not going to need the need for psychiatric care. So those types of things. So I think, you know, a big piece to understand is that while we're offering core programming, and it's certainly a more affordable option, one thing that we really pride ourselves on is that when we get an inquiry from a referent, from a professional referent, or even within our own continuum, we still go through our very clinical and careful and thoughtful process of helping to identify where somebody's going to be a best placement in one of our programs, whether that's for Caron, Pennsylvania, or for Caron of Florida. So you might have some ideas of where you think somebody might be a good fit, but our clinicians, our admissions staff, Ryan, Jonathan, myself, we're all available to guide through that process to help make those determinations of whether it should be core versus signature programming. That's my story.
And you're sticking to it. Thank you. You got a great story. I mean, I couldn't be more proud to be working for Caron, so I'm very proud to be on this today. Well, you do have a question, Dr. Adams.
Great.
All right. Can you give some more specific examples of someone who would be appropriate for the Ocean Drive program?
Sure. So, you know, Ocean Drive, again, we are just, you know, continuing to do amazing work with the talented staff that we have at Ocean Drive. A lot of you know Dr. Randall Mullings, you know, Doctor of Marriage and Family Therapy, is our Director of Family Services at Ocean Drive. Josephine Tynes, who Ryan mentioned earlier, started as a primary therapist at Renaissance and is now went through Ocean Drive as a clinician and is now clinical director of Ocean Drive. So both are very, very experienced in working with our patients, in addition to the other talented clinicians on our staff there. The core focus of Ocean Drive really involves treating people that have wealth, power, affluence, that have lived a certain life because of what they've achieved in their life. But in many areas, those things become very problematic. We find that people that come to Ocean Drive, whether they're the successful executive, CEO, business owner, that while they've had success, quantifiable success in their lives, their substance use disorder or a mental health issue is still creating barriers in their relationships. They could be about to lose the success and everything that they built in their life. And sometimes money is also a factor in that, because their access to resources helps give longevity to some of their problematic behaviors. And they can also use their power, wealth, and affluence and influence to manipulate relationships, which we see, very often. On the other side of that, we also see that sometimes the quality of their relationships in their lives have suffered because they're surrounded by sycophants, people that are trying to exploit them for their power, wealth, and affluence. So we deal with all of those issues on a very clinical level. We do that in a relational way, where we also, very much like Renaissance, have an intense involvement with family. One of the things that might be a little different at Ocean Drive is because we have typically a bit of an older and more established population, we have individuals that have families that might look a little bit different. So their family members might involve their closest business confidant, their business manager, even sometimes their attorney. So different people in their own system, what's germane to them, are impacted and also can be part of the problem. So we will involve anyone and everyone in treatment at Ocean Drive to be able to restore health to the system and to the individual in particular. One of the things that I can say for both of our programs, for both Renaissance and for Ocean Drive, is that despite the challenges of COVID over the last 6 to 7 months, we've still been able to do very robust family programming. And we started by doing WebEx forums with family members, just like we're doing now. We've recently been able to come up with a system to help support the return of family members actually physically into the clinical milieu, and that's going really great.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. All right.
Thank you.
We're going to now switch back to Ryan, who will tell us more about the Diagnostic Assessment Program and Caron Renaissance recently receiving the ACA certificate license. Thanks.
Thanks, Maureen, and thanks, Jonathan Phoenix. It's a little humbling at times to be associated with these two guys. They're pretty amazing, and I feel fortunate to work with them every day. So as you mentioned, Maureen, we are duly accredited. We are licensed through ACA, which is the Agency for Healthcare Administration in the state of Florida, which oversees mental health services. And we're also licensed through the Department of Children and Families, which oversees substance use and process-driven disorders in the state of Florida. So as a result of that, someone can come to us with or without a substance use diagnosis. So Jonathan had mentioned earlier that allows us then to treat someone whose primary issue may be anxiety, whose primary issue may be depression, whose primary issue might be OCD. It allows us an opportunity to expand our ability to serve our clients and bring someone in who may benefit from family treatment, who may bring someone in who may benefit from needing to do some emerging adult or failure to launch work. And it might not be specifically related to substance use disorders or to a process-driven disorder. It's kind of the more classic reason somebody might come in. And it fits with the model of Caron Florida programming because we can then dig into the underlying issues. So our mental health services are incredibly robust, and they always have been. But this is really kind of a public declaration and validation of that with our ACA license. Now, we have licensed and trained therapists here, an integrated DBT curriculum involving people from all departments represented at Caron of Florida. We have brain mapping, neurofeedback services, initial psychiatric screenings, in-depth neuropsychiatric testing available through our staff within the Florida Continuum. We have full-time psychiatry, full-time addiction medicine staff, full-time nursing staff. We combine all these modalities to really take a full psychiatric and diagnostic picture of all of our clients. So we're looking holistically at the whole person. It allows us to really effectively assess and skillfully assess someone. And that really has kind of led into a very organic creation of our diagnostic assessment program. And that is DAP, or our diagnostic assessment program, is a way to assist our families and individuals at looking at exactly what it is that they may need to treat. They may have received multiple diagnoses over a period of time. They may have received conflicting diagnoses. They may not be content with the diagnoses that they've already received, or they might know that there's something more to the picture that needs to be fully evaluated. And so we admit clients for a 10 to 14 day diagnostic evaluation so that we can really dig in and look at everything that is affecting them in order to help them create a path to being successful. And as I said, sometimes that's about clarifying a mental health diagnosis. Sometimes it's about looking at the intersection between mental health concerns, personality features or characterological issues, substance-related concerns or process-driven concerns. And we do all of this through a family systems assessment lens and through a psychiatric lens. We need to involve all of the key family members. As Dr. Adams said, that may not look cookie cutter. It might not simply be someone's parents or someone's spouse. It might be additional people who are part of their family of choice, not just their family of origin. And really helping to identify through complete biopsychosocial assessments with the family members. Our gifted family therapists working to help to provide a really deep understanding of the family system, the family of origin dynamics that may be at play. And if necessary, we talked about some of the on-site family programming that we can do. Sometimes it's beneficial during those assessments to have the family participate on-site so that we can really get a comparison between what we're seeing and what the family members have historically seen. We involve reference, we involve previous treatment providers. We want to really make sure that we have a full and complete picture of an individual. So the way that we do that is we are looking at all of the medical components, including a physical exam, blood work, review of all records, and coordinating with all previous providers through our addiction medicine doctor, a full and complete family systems assessment, through Jonathan's department, full vocational and educational assessments so we understand levels of functioning, a full psychiatric and diagnostic evaluation, QEEG brain mapping and neuropsychological and neurocognitive screenings, a full spiritual assessment, and a full biopsychosocial assessment to really help look at levels of functioning, potential addiction or compulsive behavior issues, trauma screenings. We really want to make sure we have a full and complete picture. And as we do that, we can really help an individual over those couple of weeks identify what their next best steps are. We have, Caron is a national organization, and we've been around for 60 years, and we have some wonderful relationships, so we can help identify what some need next, but in an accurate way so that it can take the guesswork out of what their next steps can be, and really help provide some comfort and some security for the family and that individual in making sure that their resources, that their time and emotional energy are well spent with next steps.
Thank you, Ryan. And if I could just tag on a little bit more with that, we have our RRDs across the United States, and that's part of their job too, is to help with that continuum of care. So that's why they're out there, obviously meeting with professionals and making sure that when people do leave Caron, that they're stepping into a place or a professional setting that is that's related to what Caron does and how we feel and think. So I love how we have that continuum of care, not just when the patient's with us, but for the whole continuum of their programming. So thank you. All right. Our last portion will be focusing on programming available at Caron, Florida campuses, specifically to lawyers and other professionals. So I'd like to welcome back Jonathan.
Hi, I'm back, Jonathan Salzberg. In another life, I got my MBA from the Warner School of Business and Finance, and I worked in corporate America at AOL Time Warner, and had the opportunity to take a number of law classes at at Wharton, and so I have a real passion and real connection for working with lawyers. And one of the things I want to first share and discuss is the founder of this program, our legal professionals program at Caron, which started in Pennsylvania. His name is Link Christian, and may he rest in peace. His idea and what he developed was behind sorry, I keep on having things pop up on my phone. What he had developed was based on a research and study conducted by the Journal of Addiction Medicine in 2016 that found that lawyers had higher rates of substance use disorder and other process-related disorders, as well as anxiety, depression, than compared to their other peers or compared to other professionals. And in addition to that, in that same survey, what they found was, of those surveyed, 28% met criteria for major depressive disorder, and then 21% met criteria for substance use disorder. So really looking at this profession that's really experiencing some significant concerns. And under Link's leadership, he launched the Legal Professionals Program, because in that same study and other studies, what it came out was that lawyers speak to other lawyers. Lawyers are able to share some of their intimate details with other lawyers because of the profession of that cohort, which we all know, which I've seen from different cohort models, whether it's students, professionals, and other individuals. The cohort model of like-minded individuals being able to work together to really work on core issues really works. In that same mindset, what we found, which was very helpful, was to create specialized programming in Pennsylvania where these lawyers would be able to have specialized programming where they have groups that were facilitated by lawyers in recovery or other lawyers who have counselors who had counseling backgrounds, but also they were able to still benefit from all the other services that Caron had and offered. That they were able to benefit from working with other individuals with different backgrounds, different professions, because they provided some context and provided some real opportunity for them to be able to see other perspectives and be able to get that group feedback. So we took that model and looked at what we were doing in Florida. And we launched the Legal Professionals Program as well as the Professionals Track, which was the opportunity to really support professionals that aren't necessarily Ocean Drive professionals. They haven't hit that level of success. But they have achieved a level of success, a perceived level of success, that kind of the core adult daily living skills as far as making their beds and cleaning up and all these different things, or being dependent on their families. That's not the issues. What their core issues are, in a lot of cases, can vary, but one of the kind of key pieces that Maureen's talked about was, how do they define success? How do they look at their quality of life? How do they optimize their quality of life? How do they to redefine their career goals in line with their recovery goals? So I know I'm talking about two things, but the Legal Professionals Program at Caron Renaissance is integrated into our professionals track, where they're working with an individual, Corey Rabin, who's also an attorney at law, and has definitely is recovery informed and is able to really work with them and help them mitigate some of their anxieties around, what do I tell my law firm? How do I take Family Medical Leave Act? What do I do with regard to if I'm reapplying for the bar? If I'm applying to the bar, do I have to disclose this? What does this look like? A lot of core issues that only lawyers really understand. Certainly, I have a general subject area expertise in this area, but not certainly to what Corey Rabin has. So when we're dealing with helping lawyers get to treatment, what we're seeing is some of the biggest barrier is really helping educate them on the Family Medical Leave Act and the fact that they can take time off, the other piece is really educating them on what their options are as far as the legal assistance program. Every state has their own legal assistance program where lawyers are able to go to meetings that are only ran by 12-step meetings that are only for lawyers. So it really educating them on, yes, there's other people, other lawyers and attorneys out there, or legal professionals that are in recovery and doing well and performing well. So we're really proud of that programming. We can provide our brochure, which is much more comprehensive than how I'm summarizing it. But the key piece here is really being able to provide that hope and that lens so that the attorneys that are seeking help are able to connect with attorneys who've been through that help and are able to guide them and show that it can be done. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So we do have a few minutes. We have a couple questions that came in. With Florida being considered a hotspot, which actually we're really not considered it a hotspot now with COVID-19, how have you been handling the mitigation on your campuses?
So thanks for asking that, Maureen, and you're right. We're no longer considered a hotspot, and as a matter of fact, in our surrounding counties, including Palm Beach County, the number of deaths has been decreasing. The number of positive cases have been decreasing. So, so much so that we're actually moving towards phase 3 of reopening South Florida, which is very, very encouraging. I think another piece that's important to know is that for our Caron organization in Florida, we have not had one positive patient in the time of since the onset of COVID. So when you ask how we've been mitigating the risk, we've taken really some extraordinary precautions and above and beyond just everything that the CDC recommends, which is certainly implemented into all of our practices as far as the constant hand washing, wearing masks, social distancing. So we've incorporated all of that into our practices, so much so that we've adjusted group sizes so that we don't have too many people in a room based on the size of the room. So we've looked at it from every angle, and we've done all that, not only with the guidance of the CDC, but also under the guidance of Dr. Anthony Campo, who is our medical director, and Dr. Barbara Krantz, who is our director of addiction medicine and has been, in family practice for a number of years, which I won't say because I don't want to give away her age. But at any rate, Dr. Krantz and Dr. Campo have led this charge. They've been absolutely amazing, and we've been very careful with when we have an admission, isolating the admission for a number of days until a COVID test comes back. We COVID test all of our patients upon admission to the program, and upon waiting for the isolation period and receipt of a negative COVID test, we then allow them to enter the community. Some of the things that we've done traditionally within our programs, because we have a very experiential approach to treatment, as Ryan has described, we've had to make adjustments. So for example, where we used to take our patients to a grocery store off campus so that our clients could learn budgeting and skills around food and all of that. We've actually set up our own grocery store on campus so that our clients can shop in the grocery store. That's for Renaissance, not for Ocean Drive. That's a completely different program. But it's things like that that we've looked at to try to cover any type of risk area. We've also asked family members to go through the same process of getting the COVID test and then getting isolated until the results come back. And that's for their safety, for the protection of our staff, and for the protection of our clients. And it has worked. So we're very, very proud that we've been able to go this time, and we've successfully mitigated that risk and the spread of the virus into both our patient and our staff community.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. So we have 2.5 minutes, and I'm going to ask one more question, but it has 2 questions in it. So here we go. Other than residential family restructuring, can you explain how families are involved in patient treatment? But also they're asking, are scholarships available for family restructuring participants including those who do not have a loved one at Renaissance.
Sure. So I'll jump in real quickly, and then either of these two gentlemen can amplify. Family members are, from the very beginning of treatment, are assigned their own family therapist. So they are having a weekly phone call with their loved one's primary therapist about that individual's progress and challenges, but they're also doing a weekly call every single week about themselves, focused on their needs, focused on the traumas that they've experienced, focused on what recovery issues they may need additional support with, being challenged to develop their own recovery network and treatment network. Because generally speaking, families are focused on less than the identified individual. But what we have found, in order to really make treatment the most effective and to maximize recovery rates, is when we do a parallel treatment, the family receiving an equal amount of attention and support, that increases our recovery rates. So families are experiencing that throughout the course of treatment. They are also invited to participate in, depending on what the circumstances are, they're invited into groups, either live or via WebEx or other virtual platform. So they're part of the group treatment process. They're invited to participate in a 2-day family workshop during their loved one's care. And then, as we said, residential family programming, depending on what that family's needs, may give them a full week to 2 weeks of on-site participation focused on their own needs. Families, as we get toward the transition out of treatment, families also develop their own continuing care plan that is separate from their loved ones. What do they need in order to maintain and continue their recovery? So it's consistent and ongoing throughout the course of treatment that families are having their needs focused on and addressed.
Thank you, Ryan. Big thanks to Dr. Adams, Ryan, and Jonathan for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And I know our patients and families and referents all appreciate what you do for caring for the patients and the families. So thank you. But before we go, we would like to update you on some information. Caron is participating with the American Society of Addiction Medicine to host their fundamental addiction medical workshop. So please take a look at this. This is an innovative and highly interactive workshop. We'll provide a comprehensive overview of addiction medicine and how to screen, diagnose, treat, and refer patients with addiction. Participants are eligible to receive 8 AMA PRA Category 1 credit, and the workshop will begin Tuesday, October 6th, and we only have a few spaces left, so please sign up for that. The second one that we have going on is our 5th annual Addiction Research Symposium online, and it's 5 parts, weekly webinar starting October 21st. We will have leading experts in the field of addiction medicine from across the country, and they'll share the latest in current and future treatment possibilities being explored by researchers today. So all of these topics, speakers, and dates are listed on your screen. This webinar series is also eligible for 8 AMA PRA Category 1 credits. We hope you can join us for one or both of these events. And last but not least, so proud of our RDs. As you see, they're listed there. Please reach out to them for any information regarding admissions or as a resource. They're there to help you and support you. So thank you all and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.